Good afternoon, Trailblazer fans. I'm Jack Dawson here in the Amsler Campus Center gym, here to bring you a weekly recap show of past athletic events that happened this past week of men's and women's basketball. And here to discuss this with me is Assistant Athletic Director Jeff Polari. Jeff, how you doing?
Good, Jack. How are you?
Good, thank you. We're back in the swing of things. First full week back for classes and athletics. Second semester's underway. And with the first full week going, we've had a couple of games in action, 2 men's basketball and 2 women's basketball games.
Yeah, conference action in full swing. Both teams with a pair of games. We hosted Bridgewater State on Wednesday night, and then both teams began the second rotation of conference play this Saturday at Worcester State, and we'll dive into both of those matchups here as we get going forward. But should be an exciting month of February.
Absolutely. And the first full month of athletics going on. Let's start with women's basketball. They dropped a heartbreaker to Bridgewater State at home in overtime. It was certainly a great game to watch.
It was a low-scoring affair for the most part. Bridgewater took a 10-point lead heading into the fourth quarter and looked to be comfortably on their way, but MCLA scored the first 10 points of the fourth quarter to get right back into it. From there, it was really a dogfight, a game that went into overtime. Ashley Clausen made a layup at the end of regulation to send that game into overtime. You can see here an inbounds play.
Getting into Clausen.
They got to work to the right block here to tie the game at 55, eventually sending it to overtime. In the extra session, again, back and forth action left and right. MCLA did take a 3-point lead early on, only to see Bridgewater come back. Kayla Hoteling had a chance for a 3-point play here late in the ball game. She converts, gets fouled, goes to the free throw line with 7 seconds to go, and gives MCLA the lead. But ultimately, a late foul on a Bridgewater State 3-pointer gave the Bears 3 free throws. They'd go on to make 2 out of 3 and escape with a 1-point win over the Trailblazers.
Certainly a heartbreaker loss for the Trailblazers. They lost another tough one on Saturday on the road at Worcester State.
Worcester State was a really key matchup for us for a number of reasons. The second rotation gives you an opportunity to split season series. Worcester beat us earlier in the season without a couple of starters in the rotation, and then this week they walked away with a 4-point win, 55-51, another low-scoring affair on the road at Worcester State. That puts MCLA in a little bit of a tough spot in regards to potentially getting a first-round playoff game later on in the season, dropping us to 2-5 in the league standings. As you can see here, Westfield State comfortably in front, still undefeated in league play, and MCLA sitting there in 5th at 2-5, staring up at a few of those contenders in the conference. MCLA will have a busy week on tap, as you can see, with Westfield State, front-running Westfield State on Wednesday night on the road, and then back home on Saturday.
And with that, we move on to men's basketball. The men's also lost to Bridgewater State on Wednesday to the end of the first rotation.
Yeah, it was a good game for the first half of play. MCLA Bridgewater. Bridgewater likes to play a little bit of a slower style, I think, compared to the rest of the league. And Keelan Cross was outstanding in that first half. Scored 21 of his 38 points in that opening half to single-handedly keep us in the ball game.
And Cross with a beautiful pass to Wiggins
for a layup to Joe Wiggins. But then ultimately Bridgewater State would pull away in the second half. Just their depth really became an issue. They really started to deny Keelan the ball. He did end up with 38 points. Granted, the majority of those came late in the second half as well, with the game out of reach.
Yeah, and the men's basketball team, they also traveled to Worcester State this past Saturday, but also fell to Worcester State.
Yeah, again, beginning second rotation, and hopefully the men, they're on a long losing skid here. Haven't gotten a W since the Tri-State shootout back in early December. Just more of the same, just kind of ran out of steam the second half. Worcester State really pulled away. I think it was a 12-point game at halftime. Came out and scored the first 6 or 8 points of the second half, and were well on their way. Keelan, I think, kind of ran out of gas, had 12 points in the first half, held scoreless in the second half, and ultimately we only put up in the low 50s for points, which just isn't going to cut it on the men's side. So tough way for them to start the second half of the rotation, and it'll be important as they get into the second half of MASCAC play. You can see they've got a lot of work to do as we take a look at the standings. MCLA currently at the bottom at 0-7. They go to Westfield on Wednesday night, which is going to be a very important matchup if they hope to play in the MASCAC postseason. They're going to have to get a W on the road at Westfield.
Yeah, and you mentioned Keelan Cross earlier this week had 38 points. I'm pretty sure that was a career high for him. He earned his 6th MASCAC Rookie of the Week honors, currently near the top of the MASCAC in scoring as well.
Yeah, Keelan's had a really good, after probably the first 5-6 games of the season, has had a really good performance. He's been scoring a ton of points, especially in the conference. Again, highlighted by that 38-point performance at Bridgewater. He was just named the MASCAC Rookie of the Week for the 6th time, which is a great feat unto itself, but it also highlights, we have a young team and a young program, and Keelan's getting a lot of opportunities, which is one of the reasons he's up there. But he's currently 3rd in the league in scoring. He leads the Trailblazers at just over 16 points per game. So it'll be good to see how he progresses, not only the remainder of this season, but throughout next year as well.
And aside from the athletics standpoint for most student athletics, we had the MCLA Fall Academic Team Review, where 46 Trailblazers were named to the team.
Yeah, it's always nice. It's a slow time of year for some news on the athletic side to come through this time of year. But the MASCAC released the Fall All-Academic Team. To be considered for the All-Academic Team, you need a 3.0, either semester-based or cumulative grade point average. As you can see, 46 Trailblazers were selected. All 7 programs were well represented, and women's soccer and volleyball led the way with 10 players each on that respective team. 46% of our eligible student athletes qualified for the MASCAC All-Academic Team, which comes out twice a year, once in the fall, and then they'll do it again in the spring semester. So a great way for some of our fall programs to earn some recognition. Putting the student athlete is something that we pride ourselves in, and it was great to see so many student athletes selected to that roster.
Certainly. And to wrap it up here, Jeff, we have 2 games here, a doubleheader at home for the men's and women's basketball team at Salem State coming in here on Saturday.
Yeah, so both teams got a pair of MASCAC matchups, as I've previously stated, on the road at Westfield, in 2 really key games. Westfield State on the women's side leading the conference. MCLA desperately in need of a quality performance. They'll be tested with Westfield State's style. They play the 5-in, 5-out, up-tempo, full-court press the whole game, so that'll be a good matchup. On the men's side, again, really kind of a last grasp at a potential playoff bid. They're going to have to earn a W over the Owls to keep those playoff hopes alive at this point. Westfield defeated the Trailblazers earlier on in our own gym, so that should be an interesting matchup, as both teams are kind of scuffling a little bit here heading into the last part of the season.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps it up here for me, Athletic Director Jeff Polari. Jeff, thank you for coming in. And fans, for all Trailblazers, you can check out our social media pages on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Follow at MCLA Athletics. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be here next week for the next recap show.